So the Faithless Looting unbanning in Modern surprised me, as that card tends to fuel broken things. So let's try out one of those broken things. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Modern video. And Modern has had some massive bannings and unbannings that have rebalanced the format and I think brought it to a much healthier place. And a place that maybe feels nostalgic for people who enjoyed the Modern of maybe 10 or so years ago, when things like Splinter Twin and Birthing Pod and Affinity were running around. Today, Plum Wizard has put together a Dredge deck for us to try out to see how much better this deck feels with Faithless Looting back in the format. Now, in Modern, the graveyard decks have gotten hits a couple of different times, notably because Hogak busted the format absolutely in half at one point. We are still very early on into the format as of the time of recording. I'm recording this on Friday, December 20th. So we don't really know what the good versions of these decks are supposed to look like yet, so we're in the experimental stage. For those of you familiar with the legacy version of the deck, this is going to look a little bit different. So we are looking to dredge a bunch of cards into the graveyard, and we're actually not going to deal all of our damage via direct combat damage. Creeping Chill is going to be some direct damage that goes to face and helps us gain some life. And then at some point, we are going to return a bunch of creatures at once. The idea is that we floop a Narcomoeba into play, and Narcomoeba will end up returning copies of Prized Amalgam to play, and we're going to kind of get an army in a can effect. And we can also do the same thing with Silver Smoked Ghoul, which will return when we gain 3 life, which happens when Creeping Chill happens. So it may take a little while for us to get going, but once we get going, things will ramp up quickly and in a way that tends to avoid a lot of interaction. As far as the sideboard goes here, we have a handful of ways to answer various artifacts and enchantments that my opponent might be playing in order to stop the graveyard. We have a way to stop opposing graveyards, and then we have Conflagrate, which is technically a castable card on the front side, but more interestingly, it's something that we can dredge over and then discard a bunch of cards from our hand. Sometimes you can get an initial dredger into the graveyard, and then, especially if, it is a lower dredge amount, we don't have Golgari Grave Troll here, for example, you might not be able to always continue going. And while a lot of times the Legacy Dredge deck is able to just cast one spell, dump one Dredger into the graveyard, and be good for the rest of the game, that might not always be the case here. In terms of playing a Dredge deck, generally speaking, I have found that the hardest part about playing it is actually anticipating exactly what sideboard cards your opponent is going to be playing. And we're in a brand new metagame, so it's not like I can just MTG Goldfish and look up what I would be expecting our opponents to be playing. So there'll be a little guesswork and trial and error on my end as I figure that out. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into a league here. Folks, if you need any Faithless Lootings or other recently unbanned cards for your Modern or Legacy decks, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. For those of you going to major events next year, such as MagicCon Chicago or MagicCon Vegas, you can place an order in advance, and promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on that order, and you can pick up on site, and it is super convenient. That being said, let's battle. All right, so my opening hand has Otherworldly Gaze for 3 looks at a Dredger, and any land can let me discard Stinkweed Imp to dredge from there. If I hit an initial Dredger, I probably can do Crimes with Cephalid Coliseum. I think this is fine. Good old Forest. Alright, so this is probably some sort of Yawgmoth combo deck list. I've drawn a Creeping Chill. That's not the best. I think I am going to go ahead and play Gemstone Mine here. I only need blue mana for this Otherworldly Gaze, but sometimes Otherworldly Gaze does not hit a Dredger, and I do want to be able to cast this red-white card next turn, which Cephalid Coliseum does not do. Mana base for my deck is a little strained because it's trying to play a bunch of different colors, but the rainbow lands like this support just hard casting creatures when the games go a little bit longer and like Graveyard Hate gets involved in a way that's negative for us. I'll take one and go to 19. That's no big deal. I don't know what this is holding up here, but we will surveil. Okay, there is a Dredger. So I'm just going to send all of that to graveyard so that we can get deeper with our Dredger on draw step here. So we'll dredge the Thug. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 cards in graveyard. I can go ahead and activate Cephalid Coliseum with Threshold. I could also just Otherworldly Gaze first and try to get a little bit deeper before I do that. I'll go ahead and pass the turn here. There's no sorcery speed restriction on this or anything. I think I am interested in casting another Otherworldly Gaze before I activate Cephalid Coliseum. Cephalid Coliseum is just going to be better if I do it when there are some dredge cards in my graveyard already. Are we doing Court of Calling? We are doing a Green Sun, sure. Recently unbanned card. I don't know what this does. Deals combat damage to a player, put a -1 counter on target creature. Whenever you put 1 or more -1 counters on a creature, create a green snake creature. Alrighty. So let's attempt the Otherworldly Gaze here. There's a Dark Blast. That's something. So let's put this into graveyard. Let's put this into graveyard. And then let's think about Sacred Foundry. Sacred Foundry is awkward, because I could Sacred Foundry to Thrilling Discovery, discard Imp and Thug, dredge at least 9 cards, but then I never get to activate Cephalid Coliseum. I don't think I'd take that. So we will Creeping Chill here. Yes. I have a small dredge here for Dark Blast. There's multiple prized amalgams. I think this is the turn where I try to do something broken and hope that it works. So I can discard Imp, or like Imp Amalgam. I'll go Imp. Oh, I do need to discard one more. So I will discard an Amalgam beyond that. I have 2 Creeping Chills in hand already. I have 1 in exile, so the Silver Smoke Ghoul may or may not end up being able to come back later. I have a Dark Blast as interaction, I guess. Don't know that it super matters versus what my opponent is doing over there. It can just come back. I will take 3 here. My opponent has a trigger they can use to make a snake. I can now kill this creature with Dark Blast, so I guess I will do so. Now hopefully we just have a decent dredge off this dredge 5 and return a Narcomoeba to play, which will return all those copies of prized amalgam. Yeah, so we see all these triggers. Then I don't have anything to do off 1 mana, so I'll go ahead and pass the turn. Seeing how this has played out, I wish I would have taken the Sacred Foundry to Thrilling Discovery instead of activating Cephalid Coliseum. All right, looks like opponent got like a Court of Calling here for 1. Getting another Young Wolf. 3 mana for a Grist, which is kind of cool with Young Wolf. You can sacrifice the Young Wolf and blow up one of my creatures, and then stuff just comes back with Undying. So we'll continue to dredge 5. Yeah. Get another Narcomoeba. Yes. I don't really care if I lose prize amalgams in combat. I still have a couple Narcomoebas in deck. I think I am ignoring the Grist. Just working on my opponent's life total here. Alright, so just blocking with the Death Toucher, taking 7. So they are down to 8. There's another Grist Plus for a blocker. Legend Rule of a land. And my opponent concedes. I don't feel like I played well. I don't know what else my opponent had in hand. It did not feel like this game was instantly over. So I do not know what my opponent is going to be bringing in terms of Graveyard Hate. Something like a Scavenging Ooze that is findable off of Green Sun conceptually makes sense to me. Dark Blast, I guess, technically did some stuff. I probably want some number of, like, Conflagrate or Path to Exile. Arctic Pirate, discard, then draw. Yes, it is discard, then draw. I have 0 matches to know what it is I should be cutting with this deck. The ghouls come back with Creeping Chill. The ghouls can bring back Prized Amalgam. I'm going to try cutting 2 of those for 2 Conflagrates. Now, on the draw, I can choose to just discard something to hand size, like we see here. I have nothing to do with mana as of right now, if I keep a hand that looks like this, which feels awkward. I'm not sure that this is better than just having a Dredger and one of the things that does the thing on turn 2. I'm going to mulligan this. Yeah, so this is probably fine to good. This is a little awkward to just have drawn, because I want to dredge over this, but now it's going to be at the bottom of my library, but I think I like the lands more. If I have 3 lands, I can flashback Faithless Looting, and the Surveil land gives me something to do with my turn 1. Opponent fetches. Shocks. And Delighted Halfling. Sure. Creeping Chill is not the sort of card that I would like to actually physically draw. Not want that land. We will just go through that. Seiju. And Wall of Roots. So this is a good way for my opponent to accelerate their mana forward. We have Hapatra again. Oh, it's very good at using those extra bodies. Ooh, Faithless Looting. That's great. So it's possible that playing Mana Confluence this turn is better than shocking Sacred Foundry. I think I'm going to shock Sacred Foundry. Between Faithless Looting and my stuff I mill over, I think there's a very good chance that I end up tapping this land 2 or more times. I think I'm going to Cathartic Ire this turn, and then Thrilling Discovery and Faithless Looting next turn. So we'll discard the Stinkweed Imp and the Creeping Chill here. Then we'll dredge. We only successfully dredge once, unfortunately. We do get to Creeping Chill. I put an Ox in Graveyard. Basic Swamp. Oda has a shit ton of mana, so if they have something cool they can do with something like a Green Sun here, I'm probably in trouble. But if they don't do something broken on their turn, I will most certainly do something broken on mine. My opponent is having trouble paying for a spell for some reason. My opponent has cast no spell. Okay. So I think I like the idea of Thrilling Discovery, using that to junk Stinkweed, and going from there. So red-white, we'll discard Stinkweed Imp and a land. So I will dredge with Imp, I will dredge with Thug, I will dredge with Imp. We have Creeping Chill and Narcomoeba happening, which will return a Prized Amalgam a little bit later on. Let's always yield to that. So Creeping Chill triggers, draining my opponent. We will Mana Confluence. I will then Faithless Looting. I will dredge a Thug. I will dredge another Thug. I will discard the 2 copies of Stinkweed Imp here. We have 2 more Narcomoeba triggers. Now I have another Prized Amalgam in my graveyard as well. 2 more Prized Amalgams. And then we Creeping Chill. Our opponent is at 8. And then this happens. My opponent is trying to Court of Calling now. Okay. So that's X is 0 for a Dryad Arbor. And my opponent has conceded. My opponent might be a new player. It feels like they made a client mistake on their previous turn that was game losing. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. Just the best place to host your deck lists online, just full period. It is. And I can say lots of nice things about them, or I can just show you that I have 328 deck lists on this site, and I think that's about the best endorsement that I can give them. All right, I am probably going to have a really good turn 2 and turn 3 with this deck, as I will get to... Gotta stop drawing those, though. Anyway, I will get to either Cathartic Pyre or Thrilling Discovery, discard 2 cards, and then dredge 2 to 3 times, depending on which one of these things I end up playing. Surveil land from my opponent, and they like their card. Bloodstained Mire and pass. So this is an instant. I need to read Prized Amalgam. Does this have a restriction for my end step? No, at the beginning of the next end step. Does this have any specific restriction? At the beginning of your end step. Yes, okay. So even though this is an instant, it might be better to do this on my own turn. Unless I am walking into a counter spell. And this is some sort of Grixis control deck. Take some damage from my own land. We will discard Thug, and then we will start dredging there. All right, there is a Prized Amalgam, so I will be getting that back. So yes, let's just always yield to that. So notably, I do only have one more Creeping Chill left. So I'm less likely to return Silver Smoke Ghoul to play. Another Surveil land. Drawn colors so far. Pushing something? What is this? Yes, you are pushing something. I will bring that back later. So I'm going to take a draw step here, trying to hit a land rather than otherworldly gazing immediately. I would like to just Thrilling Discovery before I activate Cephalid Coliseum, but that didn't happen. So I guess I otherworldly gaze from graveyard now. I'm almost actually looking for a land. I think I want to find a land, cast Thrilling Discovery, and then Cephalid Coliseum the following turn. Okay, well, I had plans for that Creeping Chill, but c'est la vie. Faithless Looting can go to yard, Faithless Looting can go to yard, and then Mountain for Thrilling Discovery is fine. Go ahead and put that on top, and I think I need to set an upkeep stop while playing this deck. So yes, do the draining, attack for 1 in the air, opponent's at 11, and we'll see what sort of stuff they do. If they're just playing fair Jund stuff, I'm not too worried. I'm more worried if I find out that they have a combo finish, such as Splinter Twin was going to be what I was going to finish saying there. So enters tapped unless you control 3 or more other mountains. When it enters untapped, you make a dwarf. Oh, so this is what is it? Indomitable Creativity deck. I think it's like a red polymorph or something like that. My opponent's not. Oh, red and 6. And my opponent gets back a land drop. Okay, that's fine. So you can ping and kill my small stuff. So upkeep, I have red-white for Thrilling Discovery. I do not want to dredge currently. I think I will just take the draw step. I want to draw this mountain, and then we can potentially otherworldly gaze afterwards. Actually, before, right? This is blue mana locked in already, so we'll do it before. We will just send everything to graveyard here, and then we will try to do a big scary thing, taking 1. Yes, I will discard Dredger and Dredger here. I will dredge 5. I will dredge 4. I will dredge 4. So there's 2 Narcomoeba triggers. We're going to be able to return the Prized Amalgams. So 3 Narcomoebas in play. Go to Punchies. I'll ignore red and 6. I will attack your face. The opponent's at 10. And then I return my 2 copies of Prized Amalgam. And opponent's going to fetch. I will have a lot of damage in play, but I have 2 Creeping Chills in hand, so I'm not threatening more damage with that unless I also have mana. Fatal Push is fine. I have an Ox of a Gonos I can just cast next turn. See if my opponent can do something broken. Alright, so they get their 1/1. Yeah, you can have your treasure. I'll take 2. I think dealing direct damage to my opponent in the air is probably more important. Something big's coming. Indomitable Creativity. So my opponent has turned 2 tokens into 2 copies of Archon of Cruelty. Rough. So I junk one of these, discard a card, And then I junk one of these. I discard a card. So my opponent then junks one with Wrenn and 6. I think I'm just dead to that attack. Dredge 5. Ox is a draw 3. Exile a bunch of like lands and non-relevant things from graveyard. I take 1 from my own land here. I'm going to discard my entire hand. I will dredge 5. I will dredge 5 and leave myself with 3 cards in library. That seems fine. Dredge 5. Okay, we did hit the Narcomoeba. The Narcomoeba will trigger all of the prized amalgams. I'll pass the turn. I will return, I think it's all 4 prized amalgams to play. Yes. Okay, so now I can sacrifice 2 copies of prized amalgam to Archon of Cruelty attacks, but I don't think I can deal lethal damage through my opponent gaining this much life. Oh, right, they can just ping a Narcomoeba. Oh god, and copy it. Fuck, I'm deader than I thought I was. Okay. Don't like that. So this is target opponent? I guess I could Leyline of Sanctity for that? I don't know if that's worth it. My opponent will still just have a giant creature that hits me very hard. I could try to exile it once it's in play. I am unsure if that's better than just trying to kill my opponent or not. I think my deck might be faster than theirs. I think I'm going to just try to kill them for the game that I'm on the play, and then I think I'm going to board in answers to an Archon in games where I'm on the draw. I'm not sure if that's the correct approach, but that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so it doesn't really do anything. Cephalid Coliseum isn't active. I don't have a way to get these things into the graveyard other than like passing the turn twice. I'm going to mulligan this one. This has an initial Faithless Looting, as well as Otherworldly Gaze. This is fine. I'm going to put the Creeping Chill back into the deck. Ah, shit. Alright, so we are on hardcast bad cards this game as our plan. Understood. So that is a 5-drop creature that I am going to try to hardcast. And this is where not knowing what cards my opponent is going to be boarding in is very costly. My opponent's at 17, and I get Thoughtseize beyond that. I lose the Thug. So, plan's not good, folks. I am almost certainly going to get overpowered by what my opponent is doing. So, how many answers would I have to this 2, right? No, I could have up to 4 answers. Alright. This 1/2 Stinkweed Imp is perhaps not going to cut it. But, you know, if I get to 5 mana, this is just a draw 3. But that is an if. Alright. Well, the Creeping Chill that does not actually gain me any life because it cost me 3 mana to 3 life to cast. And my opponent's at 10. I could Death Touch this token, but I think this is a race to 0 before my opponent does something broken. So I'm going in instead. I think this is an every point of life matters match. I think the token matters a lot less. I think 1 Archon easily beats me. It doesn't have to be 2. I'll take 2 on the attack. My opponent gets their treasure. 14. A Boseiju. Yeah, I'll use that ability. Elegant Parlor is actually pretty good. Thrilling Discovery I'm not into. I would like to just spike a land to cast this next turn. Opponent has more. Dwarven Mine. Oh, that is a mountain, so you can fetch it. That's kind of cool. My opponent can get back a land. I mean, it's Creeping Chill. That's direct damage. Again, ignoring the Planeswalkers, we're going to face. Opponent's at 7. Or do another one of these Creeping Chills that doesn't actually gain me life. Opponent's at 4. I mean, for a game against Leyline of the Void, you know, this is real. Bitter Reunion. That's the haste thing? Yeah. Okay, cool. Persist. That's rough. So I sacrifice a creature, I discard a card, my opponent has gained life. I think with this in play now, it is unrealistic for me to win this game from here, so I'm going to go ahead and concede. GG's. Alright, I don't think I'm going to throw back a hand where I can just play Faithless Looting and put Stinkweed Imp into the graveyard on turn 1, but I would really like to hit a relevant turn 2 play or a secondary Dredger with this. Well, fuck. GG, well played. Alright, Xander's Lounge. So it looks like we're facing a hard control deck of some kind. I think I'm just going to do this before my opponent untaps here. Everybody's going into the graveyard. And I can surveil again in my upkeep. Alright, looks like it's just island and pass. So, upkeep, Otherworldly Gaze. Opponent does have a hard counter spell. I unfortunately just draw more land. Not great for us. Now opponent has a source of card advantage, which is very, very much not good, while also still potentially representing more counter spells. I do not currently have Threshold for Cephalid Coliseum, unfortunately. I'm going to play Stinkweed Imp out, taking 3 life to do so, because this is something that can potentially stop the Tamiyo from attacking. If my opponent has exile-based removal, like, this is fine. Otherwise, using, a Lightning Bolt style card on this is definitely awkward. We're in play. Opponent's got some end of turn action, a Surveil land. We might just be Grixis here. We might not be, like, full-on Leyline Binding style control. Okay, opponent is going to send the Tamiyo in. And then Flame of Honor to draw 2 cards, so I don't actually get to kill it with Stinkweed Imp, unfortunately. This is very much not great for me. I am 1 resolved top deck away from having a very, very powerful hand. Dark Blast probably isn't it, though. I can't successfully attack this Tamiyo, so I'm going to hold Stinkweed Imp back. Now, I might be Dark Blasting my own Stinkweed Imp to put a Dredger in the graveyard to try to get things started. Tamiyo pluses, and it is Psychic Frog. I'm going to go ahead and Dark Blast that to put a Dredge 3 card into graveyard. This is not really quite what I want to be doing. This is not enough cards dredged to turn on Cephalid Coliseum, for example. But it's what I'm working with. We don't hit anything relevant there. 6 cards in graveyard. I guess I can re-Dark Blast, and then that's the 7th card in graveyard. That's not as bad as I thought it was. Okay. So, Dark Blast. Alright, 7 cards in graveyard. Cephalid Coliseum. Target myself, losing yet another life. And hopefully we make some big plays here. Unfortunately, we miss on future Dredgers. I can cast Otherworldly Gaze from graveyard. I could cast Faithless Looting from graveyard. Faithless Looting from graveyard sounds good. So discard 1, 2, 3? Land drop. A 3 life. Oh my god, I'm going to just fucking die to Psychic Frog. That eats an actual factual counterspell. Alright, obviously no attacks. I need to hold this back for Psychic Frog. Psychic Frog is very close to just killing us. So this is 4, 5, 6. Assuming my opponent can get through the Stinkweed Imp. Thunderclap Trainer. Opponent gets to look at the top 4 for a non-creature, non-land. Getting a Flame of Honor. So that's removal potentially for this turn or next turn. Tamiyo going to 8 is also just a problem. The ultimate here doesn't literally end the game, but with a Psychic Frog in play already, the ability to remove a creature and then dump a ton of cards into it, I think I'm in very, very bad shape. I could Otherworldly Gaze in upkeep here, attempting to hit a better Dredger than Dark Blast. I think I will do that. Ow, ow, ow. 5. Like oh no, my opponent's cracking a clue. Get into graveyard. Get into graveyard. I could draw Cathartic Pyre. I would only be discarding 1, drawing 1, though. That's not actually better than just Dredge 4. Alright, the Dredge needs to be good. Hitting an Ox in particular would be great here. So Dredge 4. We miss everything. 1 more look. So Narcomoeba to graveyard. I will say yes. That's going to trigger 2 Prized Amalgams. I think my life total is precious enough where I don't cast Golgari Thug. Yeah, but we had a couple of Silver Smoke Ghouls that we could return if we hit a whatever my Lightning Helix is called. Alright, so Tamiyo Ultimates. I have 2 blockers for Psychic Frog. If my opponent has 2 removal spells in their 26 cards, I am dead this turn. There's a land drop. Removal spell number 1. I know they have a Flame of Honor. Oh, why are you showing me a Deceiver Exarch? That's a very bad play. Like, you have all of those cards in hand, and you couldn't do something other than show me the Deceiver Exarch there. Like, now I know that Splinter Twin is in your deck, whereas, like, that was not information that I otherwise had. That feels like a pretty big misplay. So, do I want to address my opponent's creatures? I think I'm going to try to do the play draw thing where I don't know, is my opponent just going to be playing Leyline of the Void and I'm going to like regret it if I don't have this stuff? Unsure. This is where not knowing what my opponents are playing because the metagame is too new and I can't really check is problematic. I think I am going to just run the main deck for the game that I am on the play. Yeah, this is great. And then for the game that I'm on the draw and things are a little bit slower, I will be willing to take action. 17. And an immediate Tamiyo. This is fine. So much self-damage here. Okay. So Cathartic Pyre seems like the worst of these. I could nuke this. I don't think that's what this game is about. So I can play around a Force of Negation by playing this on my opponent's turn, but then they untap with mana, and things like Counterspell and Spell Pierce are going to be live. Yep. So now my opponent's going to get to come in and get their clue. Notably, Mountain does not cast Counterspell. So let us attempt a Thrilling Discovery now. Taking one in process. Tracking the clue. All right, nice. Looks like it's happening. So I will discard Thug and discard one land. I will Dredge, and then I don't hit further from there. While I believe my opponent does not have additional interaction, I think I go ahead and cast Otherworldly Gaze. Graveyard. Do I want to draw Looting? I can just cast 2 Thrilling Discoveries next turn. So I think I just say no and just get through that. My density of actual dredgers doesn't feel great without Golgari Grave Troll. Like, it's not only lowering the density of dredgers, but it's also taking away the best dredger at the same time. I'm ending up in a lot of these situations where I don't quite have what I want from the dredge hits. Opponent hits Force of Negation. That's not the best for me. Let's try to bait that. We might randomly spike a dredger here if this does resolve. There's a Narcomoeba. That's not bad. Don't want you. Don't want you. I think I just want a live draw. Don't want you. This Narcomoeba, unfortunately, is not bringing friends with it. No dredgers still. Prized Amalgam 1 too late. I might just Otherworldly Gaze on my opponent's turn, rather than playing Thrilling Discovery directly into my opponent's stuff here. I am taking so much damage from my own lands this league, though. Like, I'm not really getting clocked right now, but in a more tempo-oriented matchup, the amount of damage that I'm dealing to myself is very real. Alright, so my opponent gets their clue. I'll go to 17, and there is a Psychic Frog. So let's attempt to do something meaningful here. I'm at 15. Hey, there we go. This is what I'm talking about. Oh, fuck. I should have done this on main phase 2. So my ghoul comes back. So yes. Or no, this one was beginning of my end step anyway. That's fine. This turn, I'm just going to cast 2 Thrilling Discoveries. I don't need to Otherworldly Gaze. I get a Dredge 4. There's an Ox. Ox is cool. But I don't want to start there. Let's go red, white, Thrilling Discovery. Is going to eat Force of Negation. Yep. And then I will do it again. Taking 2 more. So, yes. 100% discard a Thug. Then it's a little trickier. I am going to dredge at least 8 cards. I think I put the Prized Amalgam in. So, dredge a Thug. Miss a bigger one. Dredge a Thug. Hit a bigger one. Dredge an Imp. Okay, there is a Creeping Chill. So, yes. Psychic Frog can fly, so I don't attack in. I'll just go ahead and move to my end step, and I will make friends. So, my first friends come into play, which trigger the Prized Amalgams. So then the Prized Amalgams will come at the beginning of the next end step, so my opponent's end step. I also just have a very good chance at hitting another Creeping Chill on my turn. There's a good chance that my opponent dies, or very close to it. I guess if Tamiyo transforms... I'm going to block this, in case there's some random Planeswalker Kaito nonsense. If Tamiyo transforms and turns all of my things into effective 2-power creatures instead of 3-power creatures, maybe my opponent lives. Alright, there's Flame of Honor. That does power up Tamiyo. So my opponent does plus, but then this happens. And I have an army. Does this thing have an activated ability? I can sacrifice it to draw a card. Cool. Let's Dredge and Imp. There's a Narcomoeba. So my opponent can block 2 of these and take 2, 4, 6 damage and go to 2. And then hopefully I just finish them off with a Creeping Chill. Attack you. Attack you. Attack you. Attack you. Attack you. No point in attacking with the 1-power creature. Tamiyo triggers a bunch of times. Opponent blocks the ghouls. That's fine. They discard a card to Psychic Frog here. Imagine the answer is yes. The opponent's at 2, facing down 2 different copies of Ox of Agonos. I have to junk a handful of cards from graveyard. So we Ox. So I now get to rip through the remainder of my library. So yeah. There's the Creeping Chill. So I'll just take a regular draw with this last one. I will return 2 Narcomoebas, and then finish my opponent with Creeping Chill. Alright, good stuff. We did the thing. So I did not see any sort of Leyline of the Void type card there. That doesn't mean it's not there. Like, something like Leyline or Surgical would not surprise me. I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to just disrespect my opponent's deck and try to kill them. Every card just matters here. I don't have that many dredgers, so cutting them is tough. I'm expecting some of my graveyard enablers to get countered, so I don't know how good it is to actually trim some of those. So I could go to discard and discard a Dredge 3 card to avoid initial counter spells and get things going, and work towards activating Cephalid Coliseum. I don't think that's actually good. This hand is much better. I'll keep this, putting a Narcomoeba back into the deck. And we'll see where this goes. Alright, we're chilling. Fantastic. I think I am interested in casting this Otherworldly Gaze at my opponent's end step. If they use actual factual counterspell on it, I can flash it back. I don't think I want to play this on my own turn because of Force of Negation. I think it's reasonable to do it in upkeep before they drop the second land. I think I'm also happy with trading with counterspell. Alright, so Ghoul, Dark Blast, City of Brass. So we are started. I'm fine with Dredge 3. I think I'm fine with Dredge 3. Alright, so there is a Prized Amalgam in there. I have 6 cards in graveyard. I think I slow roll this one a little bit. I think I just passed the turn and flashback Otherworldly Gaze. And then next turn I can Thrilling Discovery and Otherworldly Gaze, or Cephalid Coliseum and Otherworldly Gaze. Ambush Viper it is. I think that is a smart play. Given how much damage my lands do to me, just getting any initial damage in probably makes a lot of sense. I think it's perfectly reasonable to cast Otherworldly Gaze right here to see if I hit a Narcomoeba to block this and not take this initial damage. Yeah? This resolving is kind of a big deal because it puts Cephalid Coliseum at threshold. No to that. No to that. Another Cephalid Coliseum? I'd rather just Dredge for draw, though. I will just say no. We are at 8 cards in graveyard. But now at some point I can just Dark Blast this as well. So do this thing. Thrilling Discovery just feels like it gets countered if I cast it. I think I'm going to just activate Cephalid Coliseum this turn. So Thinkweed Imp down, Dark Blast down, other Dark Blast down, discard 1, 2, 3. So we hit Creeping Chill as well as Narcomoeba here. Yes, which will trigger Prized Amalgams. Then Creeping Chill. Yes, that will trigger Silver Smoke Ghoul. play a Mana Confluence. I will probably end up Dark Blasting a Snapcaster Mage at some point. I have made friends. Fantastic. So at this point we could get Twinned still as a way to lose. Otherwise I don't really know how good the modern pool is at sweeping creatures. Like, I'm hoping to be attacking my opponent for 15 and finishing them with a Creeping Chill next turn. Like, that's my plan. Okay, from my side of the battlefield, it is a little hard for me to tell whether, like, I just played around what my opponent was trying to do by just kind of jockeying for position with Otherworldly Gaze, or whether they just did not have much. I think they did mulligan once or twice that hand. But we were poised to go ham in one capacity or another. GG's. Alrighty. Opening hand is totally fine. I have Otherworldly Gaze into Thrilling Discovery. I would like to hit a relevant card off Otherworldly Gaze. Urza's Saga. I don't know current modern well enough to know whether or not Urza's Saga is going to represent any grave hate. It often does in Legacy. I don't really want to draw any of that. I just want to get deeper into my dredgers here. So let's just fill the graveyard for the purposes of things like Cephalid Coliseum. Another Otherworldly Gaze. If I cast Thrilling Discovery, I discard maybe Thug and Ox to draw 3. Thug and Amalgam is also not crazy. So yeah, cast this. Always Thug. I think Ox is too powerful to discard here to not do. Alright, so Dredge Thug, nice. Dredge Imp, nice. Dredge Imp. I will get to Reaping Chill, and then that returns a Ghoul. So if I had discarded Prized Amalgam, it would also be in play right now. See what my opponent is doing. Basic Forest, Urza's Saga. Okay. So I think this combos with Blade of the Blood Chief. Do not have a way to double Dark Blast this and kill this right now. Spending my mana on Ox this turn. We'll dredge a Dark Blast. I hit a Narcomoeba. Say yes, that's going to trigger a Prized Amalgam. Now we do this thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, I guess I technically want to attack first, right? Yeah, I guess I technically want to attack first in case for some reason my opponent decides to block. So they go to 14, and then I Ox. And this should go pretty wild. Let's just yield to Prized Amalgam. We are probably going to trigger that a whole lot here. So, Dredge and Imp. Dredge and Imp. Dredge and Imp. Creeping Chill and double Narcomoeba. Narcomoeba is going to trigger all of the Prized Amalgams that I have not already triggered. Creeping Chill puts my opponent to 11, and then I bring back a gajillion depower. So what? That was my turn 3. And we've seen most of our deck. That's great. So I believe my opponent can create an infinite-sized creature, but I don't think Blade of the Blood Chief goes and gives something like Trample. Yeah. So my opponent can create an infinite-sized creature, but unless they can force it through, that doesn't matter. Wait, no. Oh, fuck, Mox Opal. Mox Opal's real bad. Is this 2 to equip? This is 1 to equip. So then the Eldrazi spawn token gets Mox Opal is also online. So as a reminder, whenever another colorless creature you control enters, Glaring Fleshreaker deals 1 damage to each opponent. So now my opponent can sacrifice an Eldrazi spawn, which puts 2 counters on this. When counters are put on this, they get an Eldrazi spawn, and then that Eldrazi spawn deals me 1 damage. I'm not going to make my opponent click through that. This is a deterministic win for them. So I did something broken, but they did something slightly more broken. I had a turn 4 kill, they had a turn 3 kill. So I probably need some amount of this stuff. My opponent did also kind of have the perfects to go off, right? Like Urza's Saga into Threat, into Fleshraker with Mox Opal to give the extra mana. Can I get away with just playing the main deck when I'm on the play? Like, do I just race consistently enough where that's fine? That is my inclination for what to do. And then on the draw, I maybe trim some Cathartic Pyres and Silver Smoke Ghouls. If Otherworldly Gaze is good, this hand is fine. And if Otherworldly Gaze is not good, this hand struggles a little bit. I think I'm going to keep it. We'll City of Brass and pass. Basic Forest, and a little bit of selection with an Ancient Stirrings. Getting Mox Opal. Sure. We'll lose a life to Otherworldly Gaze. Really need to hit a Dredger here. Thank you, deck. Very cool. We're junking all of those. 4 lands in a row on top. Fuck. I think I try to hit a Dredger before I cast this. I shock this in, pass the turn with the intention of using Otherworldly Gaze on my opponent's turn. I don't know, maybe because of Silver Smoke Ghoul, I'm supposed to do it on my own turn. If I were to hit exactly like Silver Smoke Ghoul plus a Creeping Chill in those 3 cards. A Walking Ballista, that's fine. Blue and 1. Try that again. Blue and 1. 16. Wow. I mean, I don't really know what you want me to say there. Okay. Draw. Okay, so finally. Now, red, white, dual Thrilling Discovery. I need Stinkweed him to hit another Dredger to be doing something broken enough that I am relatively confident. Okay, we do. So Stinkweed into Golgari Thug. We hit Narcomoeba and Creeping Chill. Yes. Rain 3. Drop City of Brass and pass the turn. Then I get Prized Amalgam back. I have a Dark Blast that I can dredge, which at this current time can kill Walking Ballista. Blade of the Blood Chief. Sure. Then there's Malevolent Rumble. Glaring Fleshraker right around the corner is pretty bad. But now my opponent has a spawn that they can sacrifice. This is getting worse. So now my opponent has a decent amount of agency in this turn. They can get a +1/+1 counter from killing this, a +1/+1 counter from killing this. Dredge that Dark Blast. Ox of Agonas. Yeah. So I can just play Ox, or I can Dark Blast the Walking Ballista. If I Dark Blast the Walking Ballista, my opponent can just sacrifice this spawn to put a counter here, and that doesn't actually stop what they're doing. It might just be better for me to just cast Ox of Agonas and leave up the ability to do something like Faithless Looting afterwards. I think that's what I'm going to do. So, yeah. So, Stinkweed. I'm going to grab a Dark Blast the last time rather than another one of these cards. I could Dark Blast here, so these Narcomoebas don't die. Don't think that matters. Creeping Chill. Yes. Combat. Attackers. Send in. My opponent takes 4. End step. I get to return some friends. And we'll see what my opponent does. I don't think I am realistically going to have a window where Dark Blast actually kills Walking Ballista. My opponent has gotten additional mana. But my Dark Blast currently doesn't do anything. Need my opponent to move first and not have another colorless spell. Okay, so they are moving. This is the point where I attempt to stop them. So I cast Dark Blast. This was known and telegraphed, so okay, just dead. And you just put more stuff into play. No, okay, we win this one. So we were fast enough to Goldfish here. I don't think we are when my opponent is on the play. So now I just don't know how many things do I play. Is it so like probably Ghouls and Cathartic Pyres are the weakest things. I guess I could get rid of Otherworldly Gaze and lean on the things that let me just discard my Dredgers and go immediately. Otherworldly Gaze has been fucking bricking for me all day. Let's get Paths, get the things that destroy the artifacts, leave all the creatures. Like, I could board up to 4 more things that interact with my opponent. Try 4 pieces of interaction. Because I don't actually want more than 1. I want exactly 1 in a game. This is fine. So I have a piece of interaction in Path to Exile. I have a Dredger. It's not a good one, but I have a Dredger to get things started with Cathartic Pyre. I have Elegant Parlor to get me a card deeper into my deck. This is fine. Oseiju and pass. Elegant Parlor. Alright, well, we get a 1/1. Not what I was looking to do with my turn, but, you know, a land that makes a 1/1 for free. Not the worst. So Ancient Stirrings was draw for turn. My opponent did not do that with their mana last turn. Setting a Forest. Sure. And Soul Guide Lantern is not great for me. So we will just try to make my opponent pop that. So yeah, Cathartic Pyre, card up to 2 cards, draw that many cards. So red-white, we're going to discard Dark Blast. I think I save you for later. And Narcomoeba. Dredge, Dark Blast, hit a Narcomoeba. Unfortunately, this was not a very good Dredge, and my opponent maybe should not pop it here, but they did. They stop a Prized Amalgam and a Narcomoeba from getting into play, but I'm just going to have as good of or better of a turn next turn. It may not have been correct to interact there. Malevolent Rumble. Ooh, shit, Kozilek's Command. That's a scary card. That can just nuke my entire graveyard. Opponent goes with Urza's Saga, which they play immediately. 2 mana, Soulless Jailer. Permanent cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast non-creature spells from graveyard or exile. Okay. So I Dark Blast that. I can Dark Blast that and Cathartic Pyre that. Or just Path to Exile it. Just Path to Exile it. I'm quite sure that I don't want you here. Basic Wastes. Yes. Cathartic Pyre. Discard 2, draw 2. Yeah, so get rid of Dark Blast and probably Gem. Well, I could just get rid of Prized Amalgam and attempt to bring that back if I get a little lucky. So, Dredge, Dark Blast, Dredge, Golgari, Thug. Good amount of stuff in graveyard. Nothing broken happening immediately. Although my next turn will be pretty good. I can Dredge and then do Ox of Agonas. And the Ox will put relevant cards back into the graveyard. Hopefully my opponent just doesn't go wild this turn. Like, they could put enough stuff into play that they could combo off next turn. Yeah, there's a Glaring Fleshraker. Very scary card, obviously. There's not a +1/+1 counter payoff card yet. Oh, there's more. Malevolent Rumble. They can get a Kozilek's Command to do a number on my graveyard the following turn. They've chosen Eldrazi Temple, though. I'm just going to remember that. So, Dredge, Thug. I'm going to make a land drop that just doesn't hurt me here, I think. Do I want to Dark Blast a mana source? No, I don't. I would like to Dark Blast Glaring Fleshraker. So let's shrink that. Play Ox, leaving open black mana. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's make this a little bigger so I can see. 6. I do have to get rid of some good stuff. 7. Leave. I guess I have to get rid of one of these. Yeah. Discard my hand. That triggers a couple of these cards. So, Dinkweed Imp for 1. I'm always dredging a Dark Blast. Dark Blast for 2. Or Golgari Thug for 3. Trigger Creeping Chills twice. So that's 15. That's 12. Yes to Narcomoeba. Retrigger these. That doesn't matter. Dark Blast, the Glaring Fleshraker to finish it off. Combat. Send in for 1. Opponent goes to 11. These triggers go on the stack, and I get my Prized Amalgams. Good shit. Hopefully we don't die. If I don't die, I get to just Ox of Agonas again. And between the Creeping Chills and the current damage that I have on board, that's probably lethal. Or are we making a friend? Yeah, we are making a friend. Is the Blade of the Blood Chief. Opponent took Eldrazi Temple the previous turn. That was their only card in hand, so whatever thing they play here was off the top of their deck. That was Basking Broodscale. That means that my opponent can make an infinite-sized creature, but that actually doesn't really matter. Yeah, so they can adapt, put a +1/+1 counter on it, make an Eldrazi spawn, so they can sacrifice Eldrazi spawns to keep putting counters on this. Okay, so my opponent has passed the turn after putting a handful of counters on this. So I can dredge Dark Blast to kill a blocker here, but that doesn't matter, right? So my opponent can already, like, assuming they have 3, they could already block, block, block. I guess I can kill... I guess I'm not getting through on the ground. I'm getting through in the air, actually. Because if I kill a spawn, my opponent gets the +1/+1 counter. Oh, no, it's on the construct right now. So if I dredge Dark Blast, kill a spawn, Ox of Agonas, redredge Dark Blast, kill another spawn, I get in at least for 3 points of damage. Let's dredge Dark Blast. So Dark Blast a spawn, and then my opponent gets +1/+1 counters. Then do Ox, so that's red, red. I guess I don't need both Dark Blasts. Second Dark Blast can be the last card. So discard my hand. Dredge Imp, Dredge Imp, Dredge Dark Blast. This is 2 Creeping Chills. So yes and yes. Opponent is at 5. Effectively means that they are at 3. Because my 1s in the air are just getting through. Okay, so my opponent sacks that. You may have your mana. So let's go to combat. Your mana has emptied. You have 0 cards. You have 2 blockers. So you block, block, or you block, block, and take 5. GG. So if my opponent leaves the Blade of the Blood Chief on Basking Brood Scale, they sacrifice a spawn, they make a new spawn, and then I don't actually get the win there. I don't lose either. I attack for 2, but they get 1 more turn of being alive, at least. I don't know if I deserve that one, but I got it. GG's. Okay, so I can cast Otherworldly Gaze on turn 1. The problem is that I need Otherworldly Gaze to hit both a Dredger and another land so that I can Thrilling Discovery or Cathartic Pyre on turn 2. I think this hand is too volatile. I think I'm just going to mulligan this one. Is the 5 better than Otherworldly Gaze with Flashback? Maybe. It's just like so easy for Otherworldly Gaze to miss or hit a weak Dredger, and the weak Dredger does not keep the chain going. I think I'm going to go to 5. The 5 card hand is very strong. So Narcomoeba is always going back. Otherworldly Gaze goes back. I think Otherworldly Gaze goes back. I keep Thrilling Discovery to try to go ham turn 2. So Faithless Looting, taking 1. Alright. Let's discard Dark Blast and the Ghoul. So now I can dredge Dark Blast for my own draw step and then play Thrilling Discovery. And opponent's just chilling. So dredge Dark Blast. Ooh, I hit Stinkweed Imp. That's great. So land. Taking 1 here to Thrilling Discovery. Yes. Discard, discard. Dredge Stinkweed Imp. Dredge Dark Blast. And then we miss. I do have a Prized Amalgam and a Silver Smote Ghoul, though. So I'm going to put a decent amount of power into play at the end step here. Yeah? Oh, I have 2 ghouls. Even better. Alright, opponent's fetching. And shocking. They're just going to push one of my ghouls, so that's fine. I have 7 power in play. 7 power in play is currently a 2-turn clock. My opponent is at 14 already. Arena of Glory. Orcish Bowmasters. That's not bad. I do have Dark Blast, though. But I don't have a Dredger in my yard right now anyway? Yeah, so... Take 1? I think take 1. I'm at 23. Let's just kill that Bowmaster. This allows me to dredge for turn. Then I can Dark Blast this token so that my opponent can't chump block with it. Go to Punchies and send in for 4. And now we've got a couple Dredgers in Graveyard. I don't need to hit that many Creeping Chills over the course of the game to finish off my opponent, especially if they end up dealing any more damage with fetch lands or shock lands. Ooh, I don't like that. So, my opponent has 2 open mana. They could just be about to play an Orcish Bowmaster, which is not great for me. I think I'm going to go hard on this, though. Right, Otherworldly Gaze is a thing that can happen still. Let's send in and see what happens. Our opponent is taking 4, going to 5. This does cost me Gemstone Mine, but I think I am supposed to go ahead and do this right now in an attempt to find extra Creeping Chills before my opponent goes wild. So graveyard, graveyard, graveyard with all of that. We did not hit any additional power. I am a little scared. All right, no play from my opponent. My deck is definitely built to deal 20 damage. We're not built to do like 30. So if my opponent starts gaining multiple life off Guide of Souls and flaging and stuff like that, they might be able to stabilize. All right, yeah, so this is 2 life. My opponent will be at 4. This is still in range of a Creeping Chill. Chthonian Nightmare. So this gives my opponent energy, and then they can sacrifice a creature to get a different creature back. So they can sacrifice, say, a Cat Warrior to get Orcish Bowmasters, gain 2 more life, a Ajani, 0 it, gain another life here. And this is definitely the sort of thing that I was worried about. So I'm going to lose Narcomoeba here. My Prized Amalgam is not going to get through on this next turn. I also don't have much mana, so that's another problem. 7 life, a gajillion D energy, and anything that I kill ends up coming back. My opponent can also start trying to clock me back with Guide of Souls. My next turn is very high variance. Alright. This is only a Dredge 3. Come on. Fuck. Miss. Don't think it makes sense to attack into this. I don't know that it makes sense to cast Dark Blast immediately either. Opponent's going to gain so much life. Yeah, I think they're stable. Now, if I hit a couple of Creeping Chills that turn, or if I bring back the Prized Amalgams and the Ghouls, maybe we can talk. Yeah. So that's the Nightmare. Opponent has a lot of energy to work with. There's nothing in the graveyard to bring back right now. There's no red permanent right now. There is also like the Cataclysm-esque finisher on this that is potentially also a problem. Alright, so my opponent can pay some energy here, targeting the Bowmasters. If I kill the Bowmasters, my opponent just makes it come back with the Nightmare. But it's probably not correct to kill that. We're going to take 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage, kind of 10-ish damage. I don't have haste creatures. I can't burn my opponent out. Double Creeping Chill. I'm 1 away from that. Gosh, this Dark Blast only saves me 1 life. Rough. Alright, I'll take 7. I'm at 10. Man, I was not expecting to lose this game. I mean, I'm dredging the Dark Blast. I do not hit. I take 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 plus energy from this. Okay, I guess I can get rid of this. So I take 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, yep, alright. Brutal. I like the idea of Conflagrate as a way to wipe my opponent's board of these small creatures. I don't hate Path to Exile. I don't really like ramping my opponent, but Guide of Souls appears to be a really big fucking problem. So this is pretty sweet. There's an interesting decision about what land I play on turn 1. So like, I can Faithless Looting, double discard Golgari Thug here, or I can just play Elegant Parlor. I think I just play Elegant Parlor so that I can Thrilling Discovery on turn 2 100% of the time. That's not what I want at this stage of the game. I want this like much, much later. I think I say no to that. Getting deeper into my deck to try to hit Stinkweed Imps to make my next turn more broken seems pretty important to me. I'm resilient against something like Thoughtseize here. Hyper punished by Guide of Souls being my opponent's first play. I mean, that's literally what I was trying to do, so theory proven. Thrilling Discovery. Yes, discard 1 and 2. Dredge, Stinkweed Imp. Dredge, Golgari Thug. Dredge, more other Golgari Thug. Hit Narcomoeba. Triggering 1 Prized Amalgam. Ooh, shit. Could have Conflagrated that. I don't think I need to Conflagrate it immediately, though. Oh no, Conflagrate has red as cost, in addition to discarding the cards. JK, could not have done that. Ragavan. I mean, Thoughtseize gets to take Thrilling Discovery. That's not nothing. I'll still have Faithless Looting, though. Yep. Opponent's just going to go ahead and take their attack since they're not going to block with that creature anyway. That seems fine. So, do I want to Dredge Dark Blast here? Or do I just want to draw a card? I think I'll Dredge the Dark Blast, but I think it's close. Okay, so now that there's a Stinkweed Imp in there, I think I am down with this line. Let's just go ahead and Faithless Looting rather than Conflagrate. So, Stinkweed Imp, miss the second time. So discard Imp and more other Imp. Creeping Chill and Narcomoeba both happen. Yes. And yes. Now, do I want to Conflagrate just Guide of Souls? Can't cast Otherworldly Gaze. I don't have blue mana. I think I do just want to Conflagrate that card. We're going to deal 2 damage to that. Costs red, red, and discarding 2 cards. Discard 2 thugs. Nuke that creature. I think this is just about finishing the game. Like, my opponent is currently at 12, and then 8, and then I return 2 ghouls. While I can get more value out of that Conflagrate if I wait, I think I am just trying to have my opponent dead in the next turn cycle. Ocelot Pride. Sure. And Ajani. Okay. That has gummed up the board a lot. I only get 2 damage through on my next turn in all likelihood. Can't cast this Dark Blast. Can't cast this Otherworldly Gaze. Something, something, something. Perfect mana. It's probably fine. Stinkweed Imp. Oh shit. Okay. I mean, this is why we play this card. So red, red, discard 1, 2, and 3. Kill Ocelot, Pride, and Ajani, and then run our opponent over. If that didn't happen, I was also just going to have like Ox of Agonas, so I was already going to have a very, very, very good turn. Or just flashback Faithless Looting as well. Oh, this is lethal through a block, assuming nothing else is happening there. And we move to the next game. Jeez, Conflagrate is good. I don't think I'm going to board Leyline of Sanctity for Thoughtseize. My hand looks really good here. So we start on Mana Confluence, Faithless Looting. We discard Stinkweed Imp as Dredger and Conflagrate as removal. I will hope to draw a red land so that I will have red for Conflagrate because Cephalid Coliseum does not produce red mana. Now, unfortunately, this opener does have 2 of the Creeping Chills in its hand innately. Ooh, Ghost Vacuum. That's not great for me. This destroys an artifact? Nope. So I can still get some okay graveyard value sometimes by casting this card. I'm not sure if it makes sense to play Faithless Looting immediately. If I do so, I'm just looting through Creeping Chills. I don't think I'm doing that. I don't have the Wear Tears boarded in to answer that. I think conceptually my plan is now cast an instant speed Cathartic Pyre at the end of my opponent's turn and try to overpower Ghost Vacuum's ability to remove 1 card at a time. I stand by my decision. It just is going to suck a lot more. The opponent is going to get so much value off of this Bowmaster. But maybe I'll end up cleaning it up with a Conflagrate later. Fable is fine. This is probably my moment. I don't think this is removal. Actually, no. So I could try to ambush the Bowmaster, but then this gets bigger. I don't think I want to take the extra damage. I have 2 Pain Lands in play. 17. We're going to discard 2, draw 2. We take 2 initial damage from this. I will discard... I think I discard Imp, Conflagrate. So I can Dredge immediately before my opponent has a chance to respond. Then my opponent gets their Bowmaster trigger. They are going to take out one of my Narcomoebas before it's in play. So Conflagrate has been left in my graveyard. So get Narcomoeba. Bowmaster triggers. I don't have a Dredger in here right now. I have 5 cards in graveyard. Really awkward that I cannot produce red. Producing red would be very, very strong right now. Because I could Conflagrate and then Faithless Looting while Ghost Vacuum is tapped. I think this land, untapped, the full 5? Red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep looting, I think. So the plan from here is we clear the board, my opponent Ghost Vacuums out Stinkweed Imp, then I do some order of Faithless Looting plus Cephalid Coliseum on my next turn. We try to do something broken while Ghost Vacuum is tapped once again. So we've got some play through the Ghost Vacuum here. Another Bowmaster is really scary. I'm already at 11. So land drop, yeah? Yeah, alright, I lose the Stinkweed Imp. That was expected. Oh gosh, that's about the worst case scenario. Guide of Souls into Bowmasters directly. I was about to draw so many cards. I think it's another one of those times where I just draw the cards and hope that it works out somehow. I think it's possible that that was supposed to go at face rather than at Narcomoeba. The Narcomoebas don't do much when they're in play in this format. Like in Legacy, they're fueling Cabal Therapies and Dread Returns, but that's not happening here. So I could activate Cephalid Coliseum immediately in an attempt to get a draw step Dredge. I think since all of my mana is spoken for, that's probably fine. Ow! I found a Golgari Thug. That is perhaps not what I am looking for. Oh, the difference between Dredge 4 and Dredge 5 is so fucking massive. I'm going to be at 7, and my opponent is going to have a 4/4 creature. I Dredge Thug. Thug misses. The Hail Mary, I cast Faithless Looting. I think this is always leaving me dead to this. So, Dredge Thug, Dredge Dark Blast, discard 2 cards, Narcomoeba triggers, yes. Wait. Oh, I dredged rather than drew, so I dodged the Bowmaster trigger for that. So now I don't have mana. I can chump block of this and stay alive and then try to Dark Blast Bowmasters. But I can't Bowmasters and then Ox afterwards. So I guess I don't know exactly where I'm going in terms of a win. My opponent is also at 17 life now. And there's just a Ghost Vacuum that fucks up my plans further. Yeah, that was the obvious one. I think my opponent is now out of reach in terms of burning them out. Oh fuck, am I just immediately dead? My opponent makes the Orc Army token fly. No, Narcomoeba still flies. I can block that. So Guide of Souls triggers. Probably put the +1/+1 counters on the Bowmaster so it's hardier. Yeah, I don't know how I live through this next turn. I am at 3. This hurts me if I tap it. Dredge Stinkweed Imp. Hit a Creeping Chill. These enter tapped. Enters tapped. I'm at 6 life. I can Dark Blast away a cat. I don't see where this is going. Dark Blast isn't enough to do it, though. So we'll graveyard all of that. And then it looks like I am dead. Amalgam's also enter play tapped. Yeah, so all this stuff just gets through. All right. We still do end up 3-2ing this league overall, though. All right, so once again, we have 2 things to evaluate. We want to evaluate Faithless Looting coming off the ban list, and we also want to evaluate this deck list. So as far as Faithless Looting goes, it's very good. I don't think this is the best Faithless Looting shell. It's a little weird. A lot of times due to like opposing graveyard hate and priority passes and stuff, it's often better to do something like Thrilling Discovery or Cathartic Pyre rather than Faithless Looting. Faithless Looting is a very good way to get the game going. It's especially if you have a Dredger in your opening hand and you just know that it is going to work. It is good value. Sometimes I did not have mana to flash this back. I think one of my biggest complaints about this deck is actually the mana base. So the mana base has a couple of simultaneous problems. It's trying to be a very fast combo deck while also playing Elegant Parlor, which is an ETB tapped land. It's obvious why Elegant Parlor is being tried out. Like the Surveil land to naturally dump Dredgers into the graveyard is a huge boon if it does work. But I don't know that you get to do 8 Pain lands and 3 Disappearing lands and 2 lands that don't tap for red-white towards Thrilling Discovery. I think there is a little bit of mana-based clunkiness here that perhaps can be smoothed out still. As far as the deck list overall goes, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I don't know that this is more powerful than other things that are going on in Modern right now. Faithless Looting coming back is definitely an upgrade to this deck. I'm absolutely sure that I had places where I could have played better, and I certainly did not know how to sideboard. Generally speaking, I still went positive in this league, and I was doing some things like fighting against Ghost Vacuum without having outs to actually remove it. When you have that sort of agency and you can wiggle through opposing hate without necessarily having to answer it, that's often a good sign that the power level of the deck that you're playing is appropriate. Overall, I feel like this is a high variance deck where when things go right, this deck is going to feel nuts, and you will put lethal on board on turn 3 and kill your opponent on turn 4 or something like that. But then sometimes the top 8 cards of your library are lands and your deck doesn't do anything, and that feels kind of bad. But overall, Plum Wizard, I think this is a very, very good draft of a post Faithless Looting unbanned Dredge deck, and I hope you enjoy tuning it further. I don't think I have any specific thoughts about the sideboard cards, given how uncertain I was about boarding. Yeah, with that being said, folks, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. If you need some cards, you know where to go. Promo code ThrabenU will save you a little bit on your order, and let them know to keep supporting me. And have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya!